This will be a build video for this two-function toy robot thing I built. It's two functions, or it moves forward, and if you run the motor in reverse, it spins around for some steering. To show how it's built, I will just disassemble it. This is the Coke Can RC controller. There's another demo video on this, a shorter video. To start with, the top is held on by magnets, 6mm by 1.5mm magnets. Two here and two in the head. This part's called the head. It's glued to this part called the main body. This part is called the eyes. I've just got it hot glued in there for, let's hold it good enough. There's some resistors and stuff. Since this is all one solid piece, the main body, the head, and the eyes, there's two plugs up here. We can just unplug the electronics, and it is polarized. After that, we should be able to disassemble it. These casters here have screws going through them. The screws go into the main body part. So when we take those screws out, the casters will come off and the main body will be separated from the frame. Now we can just pull the body. Probably the easiest way is just to hold it upside down so that the wires hang down. To disassemble it, reassemble it the same way. You can see inside the body. This part, the main body part, has to be done with supports. You have to support these because they're up off the build bed, and down in there those overhangs. This grill part is its own part. It's glued to the main body. I did that so it's easier to make it different colors. I did print it in two different colors just by changing the layer height. The grill part prints on the print bed like this, sticking up. So you do have to have supports on it too, because there's a lip running around there. These parts, these black parts, are just inlays. I've got a sample of it over here. Here's another version of the inlay I did. We've got a part of it that's proud to this part, or sticks out, and in the main body there are cutouts, not all the way through, but these will locate on, so you just need to glue those on. This was printed with my textured build plate, so I changed it out for the smooth one, and these look much better. The arms are held on by just screws. I forget how long. The screws are in a kit like this. This is the way I buy them. Then I just replenish each individual one as I use them. So if you have, these go from M8 to N20, you'll have what you need. This red part is called the frame. This white part is called the switch clamp. It's held on by a screw that extends through up into it. And if you take it out, you can pull the switch out. The switch is, I'll just show you. So here's a little switch clamp. It just sets on there like this to keep the switch from coming out. I'll leave a link to the switch I use. It's one I use on all my projects. It's a small switch that can be used on like this or in PC boards. I forget if it has a name. The battery box is 2 AAAs. I use plugs on my projects so I can disassemble them. Here's our Coke Can RC circuit. I'll show how it's wired later. here's the plugs to the motor, the TT motor, just the yellow TT motor. This screw here, is got a nut on it. I can't remember how long it is. I'll measure it. That's the only oddball screw I had to use, a 30 millimeter long by 3 millimeter with a nut on the end. You'll just have to use whatever you've got. Something that would thread into these holes would work just fine. You just need to clamp the motor in place so it can't slide up and down. These slots are elongated. You can find a place where where everything works freely and lock it in there. I'll just use one screw. I'll demonstrate the mechanism now if it drives this thing. Turn the power on. When we run the motor forward, this wheel is driven through this idler. You can see it runs counterclockwise. When we run in reverse, this wheel is run through this idler and this other gear in line, but it continues to drive the same direction, counterclockwise. So this side is always driven counterclockwise, always driven in the same direction, no matter which way the motor runs. This side, when we run forward, we get a clockwise direction. When we run reverse, we get a counterclockwise direction. So we can reverse the spin of this wheel just by reversing the motor direction, but this wheel always runs in the same direction. That's what gives you both of them running in the same direction, and one of them running in the opposite direction and spinning. That's the way it works. To make that work, you this little idler gear here, this one that spins, or the one that is driven the direction of the motor, a floating idler, I guess we would call it. It has to have a little bit of friction somewhere that will make it drive this way or that way. I've done that with just a simple O-ring on here. You just have to adjust the tension on this till it works about right, but doesn't bind everything up. This screw here can only be so long. I think I used a 10 millimeter, but you don't want the screw going through the gear, the arm, and digging into the frame. So you have to be careful of that and not use too long a screw. It's really pretty easy to assemble compared to I did a different version of this that had some ratchets and stuff in the middle. It worked fine, but it was much harder to assemble. This is pretty simple to assemble. So we just got you just have to put screw the wheels to the frame, the gear here to the frame, and the wheel here and this gear have to spin freely on that 3 millimeter screw. You have these are cut out the shape of the shaft, double flatted. So they just stick on there. You could put a screw in there, but I haven't had the need for it. If they fit loosely, you may have to put a screw in, a small screw. You just have to dig around and find something for that. Anything else I need to say? Like I say, the assembly is pretty simple. The main problem with building it is the electronics. I'll show that next. So here's the board from the little RC car, the Coke can RC car. After you get it out of there, it's going to have wires coming all over the place. You need to desolder all those wires, except maybe leave the antenna wire here on it. but that'll expose all these pads here around the perimeter that we're going to hook things up to. Before you desolder the wire, the two you're going to want to take note of are the two wires that drive the motor in a little RC car. Here was the motor that came out of it, and these two wires running off of it were connected right here. Those are the two wires we're going to go run to our motor. These two wires that were connected here went to the steering mechanism. You want to get rid of those. The wire down here and the wire here, these are where we're going to put our power supply into. The bottom one's going to be the negative or black wire from the 3-volt battery pack. The top one is going to be the positive or the red wire. 1, 2, 3, 4 pads up, that's where that will go. I've got a drawing here, I'll hopefully show it a little better. Let me zoom out. So our negative battery or black wire is coming up to this first pad. Our positive wire goes through the switch to this fourth pad up here. To run the LEDs, we're going to hook them up to those same wires that the battery was hooked up to. One negative, one positive. They each have a resistor in line to limit current. This little bar up here marks the negative end of the LED or cathode end. This little triangle down here, the bottom of it, marks the positive end. I just put my resistors on the positive end. To wire up the LEDs, these are the LEDs. They just fit in a pocket in that eyes part. You'll want to solder them up when you have that eyes part out where you can bend everything and get everything located right. Then they'll come in and out easy. These two right here, they come up. They are the short terminals on the LED, and they're usually also denoted by a flat on the LED package. They're the negative terminals, the cathodes. You want to run both them out together, solder them together. I just left a little piece here that I can use my DuPont connector on. This is just the, yeah, that's just the LED lead. Couldn't remember if I soldered something else on there or not. Here are the anodes coming out from the LED. These are 100 ohm resistors, both of them are 120, something in there. You just want to run them out and solder them to one side of the resistor, same as over here. It comes out to one side of the resistor. Then the other side of the resistor, just tie them both together. And then I've just let a little bit of resistor lead so I can plug my DuPont connector in on it. So this is positive, this is negative. And that just sits back in here like, it just pokes back in here like that. The motor just comes off these two pads up here where the motor for the car was hooked up. Same way. There are differences in some of these boards. I'll point them out. Maybe it'll help somebody if you run into this. Here's one of the older board I had. If you start down here, all these pads are laid out the same, in the same order. The only difference is these two here are kind of on the older board. The pads that drove the steering mechanism were kind of on this angle part, and over here they were on this newer board I got. They were up on the flat part, so just watch out for that. You don't have to worry about any of these other pads.